Yeah.
Give me 1 second. Let me just get my slides.
No worries.
Hello, everyone. So great to be here. We're just going to get started in a minute. Thank you for having us.
Hello, everyone.
Okay.
Thank
I think you should now be able to see the slides, but do let me know if not. So thank you everyone for inviting us to come and speak to you today. Thank you for joining. We hope that you find this session really useful. Do feel free to put any questions in the chat as we go through. We'll do our best to answer them, and we'll have some time at the end to answer some questions as well. So today we're going to be talking to you about open community-led peer review via preprints. And we're going to do some introductions in just a moment, but just to say that we are recording this call, so you will have access to it as a future resource, and this will be available to all trainees. And thank you again for AREN for recording this for us. And with me today is my colleague Daniela. So I'll just let Daniela say a few words of an introduction.
Hello, everyone. I'm Daniela. I use she, her pronouns. I'm originally from Italy. I was born and grew up there, but then I came to Portland, Oregon in the United States for my PhD. I have a background in neuroscience. And that's a photo of me like too many years ago right now. But I've also, during my PhD, kind of got exposed to open science and a movement of people like you all that are here to learn and want to change the way research is done for the better. And I got really inspired, and then just decided to start out something new after my PhD. And so I co-founded PREreview with this other two women up here on the upper right, Monica Granados and Samantha Hindle. And it's been now 5 years, 6 years almost. It's a great journey, and I'm really happy to be here. I live in Portland with 2 children, and also this photo needs update because the baby is 1 year old now, so it's been quite a bit of time, but happy to be here.
Thanks, Danielle. And just to say a few words about my own self as well. So my name is Vanessa. I live in Oxford in the UK. And I have been involved in the open science or open scholarship, I should say, community for about the last 10 years now. I previously worked at INASP, who some of you may have heard of. They run sort of the AuthorAid project, which I know quite a few people are involved in. And then from there, I also worked at Crossref, so sort of a lot of the metadata and the behind the scenes world of sort of publishing and sort of infrastructure of scientific publishing. And now I'm really happy to be working at PREreview, working more directly with researchers, looking at ways in which we can improve how scholarly evaluation is undertaken. So I'm a really big and community enthusiast. I really like working in this community with lots of different interesting people from around the world. My actual own academic background is in ethics, and I've somehow found myself working in mostly science, but science ethics is what really interests me. In my spare time, I read a lot of fantasy fiction. I play a lot of board games with my husband, and we live together in our little flat in Oxford. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. And Lamis.
Yeah, so hello everyone. I think you already know me. You talk to me a lot, but actually me and Emmanuel were talking and we said that I don't think that we ever formally introduced ourselves to you. So hopefully this is my formal introduction. So I'm Lamis, and I'm a pharmacist and a medicinal chemist working as a lecturer of pharmaceutical chemistry at the University of Khartoum. And I'm also a researcher in neglected tropical diseases, which are causing a huge burden in my community and in the African community in general. I'm also, I've been involved in open science for quite a few years, but currently I'm co-directing and acting as the training lead in AREN. I'm also so lucky to be a peer review champion. This is why I'm sort of part of this training today with you. And yeah, I'm a wife and a mother of a 6-year-old son. And yeah, really excited to be with you today.
Thanks so much. And if anyone would like to say hello in the chat, we'd also like to hear from you. So just to go through a few of our group agreements for today. So we do have a shared Google document, which we can put the link to in the chat. Daniela, I don't know if you're able to do that if you've got the document. Thank you. And you please feel free to add your name and pronouns to the roll call. This is optional, but it's good for us to just know who's in the group if you're happy to do so. The actual Google document will be anonymous, so when you type, it won't say your name unless you're logged in through your Google account, but I don't think that should happen. So when you actually write into the Google document, your responses will remain anonymous. This workshop follows the Chatham House rule, so this means that anyone here is free to use any information from the discussion, but please do not reveal who made any particular comment. Please do feel free to eat, stretch, move, step away however you need to during this hour. Please do ask any questions anytime, either by using the raise hand function that you'll find in Zoom, and we can ask you to unmute, or you can just type your question into the chat, and we'll make sure that we check that as well. Please do try to make space for others who may be less comfortable in talking than you, particularly within our group breakout sessions. We're going to have just one of those today, and we'll go through a few more guidelines when we get to that part. And please do be open to curious and respectful of different opinions and experiences. We also do have a code of conduct here at PREreview. So you will find this information on our page. Again, Daniela, I don't know if you're able to share these things. Thank you very much in the chat. But we will expect that everybody please uses welcoming and inclusive language. Please do provide feedback that's constructive, i.e. useful to the person who's receiving it. Please do be respectful at all times of different viewpoints and experiences. Gratefully accept constructive criticism, and please do show empathy towards your fellow community members and participants in this call. If you do feel uncomfortable or unwelcome at any point during this meeting, you can always send an email to report@prereview.org, or we have a sort of online report form, which is optionally anonymous, and all reports will be handled with discretion by PREreview's safety team. And we'll put, I think we'll pop the link to the report form. Yeah, thank you, Daniela, as well in the chat. So just to go through our learning objectives for today. So in today's session, we're going to have a look at gaining a general understanding of the current peer review system, how it works, and exploring what could be improved. We're going to look a little bit more at open peer review and discussing what this means, the different models, the benefits, and the challenges that exist within it, and an introduction to different open peer review platforms, including who we are at PREreview. So we should have time for a bit of a demo of our platform at the end. And then on Wednesday, we've got a second session. And on that day, we're going to look more at understanding how systems of oppression manifest in peer review and being mindful of this, as well as introductions to strategies to self-assess and mitigate bias in the context of manuscript review. So we'll be looking at that more on Wednesday. So to get started and to get to know a little bit more about all of you, and we're going to start with this exercise. So I'm going to share some images on the screen. You should be able to see these. And I would like you to take a few minutes to just take a look at these different images, have a think, and choose the one that you feel best represents your idea of peer review. And you can type this number into the chat. You can also optionally add a reason why you have chosen this particular image. It's quite interesting to do this. Lots of people choose lots of different images for different reasons. And if you would like to unmute and talk a little bit more about why you've chosen a particular image, then we welcome you to do that too. So I'll just leave you for a couple of minutes to take a look at those.
Oh, I see a lot of number 7.
Yeah, I see a few
Yeah.
number 7s. Teamwork, collaboration. There's also no right or wrong answer, I should also add for this.
Yeah. Yeah, this is exactly what I was thinking, Daniela.
It's
So
a
really
positive thinking group. I love it. It's aspirational. This is how it should be.
yeah.
Would anyone like
love
to
it.
unmute to talk about why they've chosen number 7 or indeed a different number?
Wow. I think everyone is choosing 7.
After working in this space for a bit, I felt like 8 sometimes represented more of my feelings, but
Yeah. Okay, we have 6.
Oh, a 6. So Michael, who's chosen 6, would you want to explain why you have chosen that one? In the chat, is fine.
Yeah, sure, I can explain.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, well, it's more like building on the body of knowledge. I feel like the peer review process is really what builds science. Without it, science is not really what it should be. Without builders and that this person throwing the building blocks together really signifies the different exchanges between the reviewers and the authors, and possibly maybe if there was a third person to represent editor would make it better. Thank you. Over.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, building on one another's work. Yeah.
My own thinking of hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, my own thinking of number 6 is actually that throwing bricks is to and fro. The one throwing the bricks up is trying to build, and sorry, the one collecting is trying to build, while the one collecting is trying to help the one that is throwing to put together the bricks. And by so doing, also they are helping each other to understand more about the topic, or about even the process of doing the review. My own thinking of number 8, actually, I'm not sure whether I understand the picture clearly, but I think it's many hands being put together to produce something. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. That's also a more positive way to look at number 8 as well.
Yeah.
As we do. That's
Yeah.
great. And we've got time for if anyone else, one more person would like to share about why they've chosen a particular image. Yes, Dr. Howard, if you'd like to unmute.
Well, I have to choose number 7 because I've been involved with several researches, and I find out that one amazing thing is to stand with somebody. You might have an idea, but it gets more clearer when somebody talks a little bit more of that idea with you. So I think choosing a teamwork is actually holding hands with one researcher to another, or one collaborative individual to another. So I had to choose it because it sounds also unique to me, because most of the work I do is actually in a team or in a group also. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Great. Well, yeah, a very positive group, lots of positive experiences and views of peer review, which is great. I see there's one more hand up as well. Emma, would you like to share?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, number 7. Yeah, as you know, science is, has bring an impact if everyone has seen, by their own views. And in the preprint, if your view maybe is different with any other. So as a contribution of several experts and multidisciplinary teams may contribute for that, and it enrich, the idea, or even the science at the end, maybe, is strong at the end. So it's a contribution of a multidisciplinary team from different corners, and they also observe in different angles as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, bringing in different perspectives. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to progress forwards to just talk a little bit more about generally what is peer review. So just to have a general understanding that we all have together, and this is one that you can find on Wikipedia, and here we define it as an evaluation of work by one or more people with similar competencies as the producers of the work. So it functions as a form of self-regulation by qualified members of the profession within the relevant field. So this is a very broad definition of a process that has many different shapes and shades, and it's constantly evolving, and we will be looking at some more of that in more detail as we go through. But I'd also like you to just think for a moment as well about what does qualified members of a profession mean? So who gets to decide who is qualified, whose expertise is needed to interrogate the work? And these are questions to keep in mind as we go through today as well. So, we've had this slide twice. I apologize. This is that, but I also wanted to share a couple of images as well. So some of the images we have here. So the bottom left image, peer review is often depicted also as a black box. So it's also a process that not many people actually have control or knowledge over its mechanisms. And this opaqueness of the process is what can make it quite hard to evaluate objectively. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, you can also see a cartoon that she's by Nick Kim. And this is often used to depict peer review as well. So if you saw this cartoon and you did not know much about peer review, what would you deduce? What do you think the artist is trying to capture in this cartoon? So again, anyone's welcome to share their thoughts here. I feel like this cartoon may not be as positive about peer review as you were yourselves looking at different images. But does anyone want to share any thoughts that come to mind when you look at the image on the right? And you can share this in the chat as well if you would like. So a rigid process, yeah. Oh, I see a hand up. Yes, so Tone, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. If you'd like to unmute.
Okay. Yeah, it's Sotonye. You're correct. The image on the right tries to depict a journey. It's like a journey that is being embarked by a researcher. And of course, the people by the sidelines maybe depicting the reviewers with their various, let me say, weapons of obstruction to obstruct the way of the author as he goes about the journey of publishing his article. And I can see different objects in their hands, and I'm sure those objects are like obstacles that the researcher has to cross or bypass or dodge in order to get to the destination of getting his paper published. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Very much so. So yeah, you've got this like gauntlet that the researcher has to run. As you were saying, a lot of them have quite scary looking sort of weapons in their hands. So they are sort of opponents rather than someone who's going to come and help you. And the researcher themselves is carrying their paper, but they don't actually have a weapon themselves. I can see some comments in the chat as well. So quite an intimidating journey. Yeah. Pass through obstacles and hardness of the reviewers for your paper to be published. Image one as a mystery, and who knows what will come out. Yeah. And then another comment about the picture on the right, a lot of limitations to reach the destination. So yes, lots of things to get through in order for you to get your paper accepted. At the end there as well, the very last figure itself is actually death. So that's sort of representing the sort of publish or perish culture that sometimes exists. Another thing to note as well is that everyone in the cartoon appears to belong to the same ethnicity. So most people there appear to be white, most seem to be male, and they are sort of represented as senior in their career. And this is the stereotypical representation of an expert. And the identity of about 70% of the editors within the publishing system as well. So we're going to have a look a little bit more into that. So who are the experts? Mostly male, mostly North American. So data around the diversity of peer reviewers is scarce, but there are a few studies that have looked at gender and geographical representation of peer review gatekeepers. So in this study from 2019 of senior editors, reviewing editors, and peer reviewers at the journal eLife, authors reported an overrepresentation of male gatekeepers. So these were mostly peer reviewers, as they were counted for about 7,000 out of the total 8,000. And over 90% of these gatekeepers were living in North America or Europe, with only about 5% from Asia and under 2% from South America, Oceania, and Africa. And also in this other study by McDowell and colleagues, they surveyed nearly 500 early career researchers. So this is anyone who is engaged in research who's not recognized as an independent leader of their research group. So this includes undergraduates, graduate students, postdoctoral researchers, junior research assistants. And they found that about half of them had never engaged in independent peer review. However, several of them had reported experiencing peer review as co-reviewers, so someone who has contributed ideas or text to a peer review report, even though they're not the invited reviewer. And they're not always recognized as being part of this process. So the authors define the process of co-reviewing without recognition as ghostwriting. And 46% of folks who co-reviewed reported to know that they have not been recognized, and about 32% didn't know if they had been acknowledged for their work. So even if these are not comprehensive data around global peer review practices, and they're a little bit out of date now, so things may have changed slightly, we can deduce that who is called to be an expert, so someone with enough experience to be a peer reviewer, may be part of a homogeneous group of people, which is not representative of the diversity of researchers whose work is being evaluated. So we're going to go into our breakout activity for today. So we've got our Google document, and we're going to move over to that, and we're going to spend about 10 minutes in a breakout session, and then we'll come back for about 5 minutes for a quick group discussion. So I think the link to the document is here. I've got the link right here. If I can paste it, 1 second. Oh,
I did it.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniela. So that link should take you directly to the right section of the Google document. Please do let us know if you're unable to access it. And then we're going to open some, I'm hoping I can just open the breakout rooms. Is that okay, Lamis?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so let me just see. We've got 25 people. So maybe like 6 rooms. Let's give it a try. And I've got some guidelines here as well for breakout rooms. So please do remember to introduce yourself in whatever way you'd like to be known within your group. Please do be kind, curious, and respectful of different opinions and experiences. Please do try to speak for 1/10 of the time. So for example, if you've got 4 people in your room, you should be speaking for about 1/4 of the time. Do share one thing at a time, and please do offer affirmations. So you can always +1 things within the Google document and also verbally out loud as well. So we are going to be looking at imagining a new and better peer review system. So in the shared Google document, if I can find this on my screen, while screen sharing, you'll find 2 prompts. So one of them is aspects of the peer review system you would like to keep, and the other one is aspects that would be better changed. And you can make some notes under the bullet points. If you see anything that you agree with, and that doesn't have to be from your own group, you can put a +1 next to that in the document. And yeah, so hopefully that is clear. I realized I've not actually read out the prompt, but the prompt is that we are in 2050, and the way that we do share and evaluate research has profoundly changed. So we're trying to think about ways in which the peer review process may change in future. So things that we would want to see kept within the next sort of 30 or 40 years, and things that we'd like to see changed. If you have any questions, please do let us know. So I will find the breakout rooms. And she also said that this is optional, so if you would like to remain in the main room, you're more than welcome to, and you can still contribute to the Google document.
And we purposely did this before diving into more aspects of peer review, because we'd like to prompt some imagination from you all. So I hope you can have a good discussion in the breakout room. I think we should assign, honestly, like 6 minutes because of the time, and then we can have a short discussion afterwards when we come back.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Okay, I'll create the rooms now. So you should see an invite to a breakout room on your screen, apart from the people who are also co-hosts.
Yes. And I can see people have already started filling the questions, which is really nice.
If you need help to join a breakout room, you can let us know and we can move you up, automatically, but you're also welcome to stay here. And I wonder, I don't know, Vanessa, if you want to screen share the Google Doc.
Yeah, I will screen share my Google document instead. Let me just stop sharing my screen so I can share my other screen.
And I started the timer.
Thank you.
I think that the last document that you shared, Daniela, is one that's have been already filled. If I'm
Oh no! Oh no! Oh,
yeah, no worries.
No. How do we say that? Okay, I copied the link that was in the slides.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know why that was.
No worries.
No worries, no worries.
Okay.
Okay, that's not good. Let me broadcast a message.
Yeah.
Because I saw like something is written, so I was.
Yeah, I wondered what you meant then, because I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if I need to go into a H breakout.
Yeah.
You mentioned that. Okay, sorry. It's just that when you update the link, if I do copy anyway, it has to be updated also the actual link in the slide, because it won't change it automatically if it was made into a link. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We can also pause recording. If possible.
Manuel, if you could do that.
Just pause and we resume when we come back, so we don't have to spend time.
So thank you. So sorry about the wrong links. Hopefully you still had some time to discuss some of the prompts that we had. And I know some people are copying and pasting things back or making some notes in the document. Please feel free to continue doing that. We would just like to know if anyone would be willing to sort of share out loud anything that was interesting in your discussions. So particularly, maybe we can look first of all at the first prompt. So again, we're imagining we're in 2050 and the way that we do share and evaluate research has profoundly changed. So what aspects of the peer review system do you think that you would like to keep? So would anyone like to unmute to share anything interesting that you had within your discussions?
Or maybe in the chat.
Yep, the chat is also fine. And also people are filling in the document as well. So I can see some people have put things such as open access options as something they would like to keep. So providing pathways for research to be freely accessible, meaning that dissemination is not hindered by paywalls. Ensuring that they want to keep making research better by making corrections to manuscripts and directing the focus of the research. Someone else has added that they'd like to keep anonymity or blindness as part of the review system. And there are some comments that are also things that would maybe be better changed. So sort of more African representation in different disciplines, as well as more gender equality and more female representation. There's another comment about more women as well. preprint review as something to keep. Okay. Does anyone else have anything else they would like to add about what things they would like to keep as part of the process? And things that would be better changed. So again, we've got some comments here already. Make it a must to have preprints. Peer review regardless of nationality. Again, we've got more like ethnicity, gender, gender bias, institutional bias. So challenging these things, changing them. Clear instructions for researchers so they can further curate their skills and work. And high APCs. So changing those. Is there anything else that people feel would be better if things were changed? What would improve the peer review process for you? Again, anyone's welcome to unmute or write in the chat as well. So research integrity. Oh. More open, community-based, more driven by equity principles. Yeah. Thanks, Daniela.
Not a participant, but
Modesta has her
Modesta,
hand raised. Yeah.
Hand raised. Yeah, would you like to unmute?
So much I was thinking on adding the issue of inclusivity, specifically for persons with disabilities on our peer reviews.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's also something we've not noted down, but that's great. Yeah, greater inclusivity. In particular with and taking into account disabilities. There's a couple more comments in the chat as well. So more learned ability in the research review. So I guess more like training, more things like that. Constructive contributions, and we will definitely talk more about that in future as well. Expertise of database, then recommendations. I'm not sure if Aman would like to expand upon what exactly you mean by that.
Yeah, thank you so much. What I mean is that, sometimes it allows, recommendation for the author, or by even if I'm, for example, if that's sent to me to review that, I may not be the exact expert on that. And sometimes people may also repeatedly reject, but sent for that with, but the expertise is not in line with that manuscript. So we need to have, a kind of database or reviewers with their expertise. Yeah. Then we can use that one.
Okay.
So I recommend that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I understand what you're meaning. So sort of like enhancing the sort of pool of reviewers and opening that up a bit more, people with a range of different expertise. So, and again, we'll be talking a bit more as well about kind of open peer review and how that works shortly, and how different people have different levels of expertise, and then opening that up so that more people can engage in the process. And I think Daniela's also put a comment about that into the chat as well. So nobody is ever the exact expert, but the authors. That's why it's important to have more reviewers, community reviewers engaged in peer review. And we can do that with preprints and community engagement. And we're going to talk about that shortly, in which case I'm also going to be handing over to Lamis, who's going to take us through the next part. So over to you, Lamis. You're happy to take over the screen sharing. But you're on mute currently.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'll just share my screen. Okay. Yeah. So I think after now that you got a chance to see the general overview of the peer review process, it's also important to know that peer reviewing is actually a model. And this model usually have key elements that make up this model. And this table is actually taken from COPE, Ethical Guidelines for peer review. And it's meant to be read from the left to the right. So what this table depicts is the key elements that sort of a journal or an organization has to put together in order to put a peer review model. So for example, we have the timing, like the very first row is timing. So the peer review process could occur at the stage of the preprints or at the state of the pre-publication, which is the manuscript that is submitted to the journal, or the peer review could even happen after the publication is finished. And one more example from this elements are the identifiability. And we mean that by that the identities of the reviewers and the authors of the manuscript. So the identifiability could range from being double-blind up until open. So it can be closed and in a range until it can be open. So the most closed form of identifiability in the peer review modeling is the double-blind identifiability, in which neither the author nor the reviewer know each other. So it's like basically everything is really on the dark. No one knows who submitted the work, and no one knows who's reviewing the work. So this is very closed. Then at the middle, we have the single blind model, which is, I think, it's the most common model that we see in the journals, in which the reviewers know the identity of the writer of the manuscripts, but usually the authors don't know the identity of the reviewers. And of course, we know this comes with so many issues that we'll discuss a bit later on. And then finally, we have the consultative model, in which everything is open. The reviewers know who the authors are, and the authors know who the reviewers are, and basically everyone know each other. So this is the most open type of the identifiability, which is one of the key aspects of making a peer review model. So for example, if you wanted to take this table and see which fits into the standard peer review model, we could see that, for example, for the timing, usually the standard journals does the peer review at the pre-publication stage. For the identifiability, it's usually a single blind type. And for the mediation, it's usually the editors who mediate the conversation between the authors and the reviewers. And then the final reviews, the review report is not usually published. So this is what we like. This is the standard or traditional peer review model that is most commonly seen now in the scientific community. So, of course, this comes with challenges, and I think these challenges we've all been through, but just to sort of mention them, the first challenge, of course, is the lack of transparency. We know that everything is behind closed doors. No one is knowing what's happening behind these closed doors. And so lack of transparency, I think with the lack of transparency, automatically comes the potential of bias. If the reviewer knows that their identity is not shown, then they're more prone to bring on their biases into the peer review process. And I will talk more about the different types of biases in the upcoming session. And of course, also the lack of transparency leads to limited accountability. If you don't know who the reviewer is, you can't hold them accountable to the reviews that they've did. And I think the most important thing is the educational limitation. We've all maybe all of us now are early career researcher. We've never done a peer review, and we don't know how to do a peer review. Like there's no transparency in this issue, and we don't see, like, for example, if we look at a publication, we cannot find the record in which we could go and follow the peer review process so that we could learn how to properly do a peer review process. Then comes the problem of the time and resources that goes into the peer review process, which eventually leads to a substantial delay in the publication process. And finally, last but not least, but it's also the unreliability, which is something that I think we talked a lot with Johnny when we're talking about preprints. And people are arguing that if it's not peer-reviewed, then it's not reliable. But then actually, the current system of the peer review actually does not ensure reliability, because we see that like different reviewers address the manuscript at different extensiveness. So you have a reviewer who goes into like deep details, and other ones that just skim through the text and try to find like grammatical mistakes and so on. So it does not always, like the traditional model does not always guarantee that the outcome is good or the quality of the manuscript is improved. So these are the like some of the challenges. I really encourage you to go and see the paper that is linked below the slide, which is titled "What is Open Peer Review?" And I think it's a very good resource to go back to. Then also when we think about open peer review, we usually think about open identities, and this is not just the case. Yes, in open peer review, the identities of the reviewers and the authors must be open, but open peer review involves so much more processes. For example, the report has to be open, the participation has to be open, anyone should be able to participate and give input. So there are many different aspects that make what an open peer review is. So this is very important to keep in mind. So again, going to the benefits of open peer review, and I think we could just take the limitation or the challenges of the traditional peer review model and just reverse them. So if we have an open peer review, of course, this will enhance the transparency and trust. It will improve the quality of the review itself, because now the reviewer know that this review is going to be linked to him or her. So they will make extra effort to make it better and make it more detailed. Of course, there are increased accountability. There's a decrease in the risk of bias. And again, there's an educational value to the community, because me as an early career researcher who have just been asked to review a paper, I could, for example, see a similar paper and track the reviews of that paper to learn how this process goes. Then, of course, it also fosters constructive dialogue and increase citation and visibility, because people know that this manuscript has been extensively reviewed and everything is out in the open. So this sort of make the work more reliable, or the manuscript more reliable. So I think we've seen the slides many times now with Johnny, is the difference between the preprints, the normal traditional publication method model in which everything is in the dark. You submit your manuscript, it goes through several rounds of revision and back and forth between the reviewers, the editor, and the authors. And then this takes so many time, consumes so much time until a paper is finally published. While on the other hand, well, the lighter side and the upper side of this slide is if you submit your manuscript as a preprint within a maximum of 2 days, then your work is out for the public. And this creates a very important and big opportunity for constructive community feedback, ideas, and discussions. So by posting a preprint, you're actually giving a chance for your work to be seen and for people to give you input around your publication. And this would eventually help you proofread your publication and enhance it and make it better. And if you remember, Johnny said that he would recommend that if you want to publish an article, then 1 month prior to submitting it to a journal, then you should submit it to a preprint server, so that during this time you could get feedback from the community and enhance your manuscript. And this will in turn like reduce the time and the effort that the journal will need in order to sort of finalize the manuscript. And also, we've also seen this slide, and we now know that the number of preprints that are getting published are significantly increasing over the years. This is something that we could see across all the preprint servers. And since the preprints published are increasing, it's also interesting to see that the adoption of preprint review is also increasing, which is good. This graph depicts that you can see from 2017 until 2023, the number of preprint reviews have grown exponentially. I think just as much as the preprint publication itself have grown. And this means that this is gaining popularity, and it is important, because if something is not useful, then you wouldn't probably see it growing in momentum like we see in this graph. So this means that reviewing preprints is becoming very popular and becoming very important. So if we would like to give sort of a definition to what is open preprint review, it's simply the process of evaluating and providing feedback on a research manuscript that is posted on a preprint server before it undergoes the formal peer review, even though I don't really like this word formal, because it sort of implies that the other review is not formal. But I think we can say formal in response or in the aspect of the journal, like reviewed by experts who the journal thinks are formal to them.
I like journal organized.
Yes,
Yes. There was so much discussion around what definition to give to open peer review, but this is what most of the group of the paper ended up. But I agree with you.
Yeah. So of course, and then open preprint review brings additional benefits to the other than the general benefits of open peer review that we discussed. The first thing is that it provides a platform for real-time scientific dialogues. Like you can see people in the comments, talking and interacting together. And this is very important. This is something that you cannot really see in a traditional publication or journal. And this in terms will increase collaboration, because if the scientists could interact together, then definitely they could collaborate more together, for example, like to work on new ideas or to extend on the ideas that are already published in the preprint. And of course, this would also accelerate the feedback and improvement of the manuscript. And this is something we've already touched upon. So yeah, I think this is it for me. I'll hand it over to Daniela, and I hope I wasn't too fast.
Oh, no, thank you. And I mean, I think we are just, we fell on the fact that it's an hour and a half, and apology for the miscommunication. So we do have time. And in fact, I would like to pause here before I can, maybe like I'll talk about 2 more slides, and then I would like to pause and see if we have some questions and kind of discussion, because we do have time now, to see if, there are any further discussion points that considerations people want to share about open preprint review. But I will, let me share my screen and finish up with this couple of slides. So here we go. I think slide share. Do you all see my full screen? Sort of. It's loading. Yes. This is another slide that was kindly provided by Esa Bio and Johnny, who you have already talked to. But the point of this slide is just to try to show that there are many emergent processes and organizations and groups that are they've been trying for longer than others to bring this concept of community preprint review, or these ideas of having reviews or feedback or whatever they want to call it to preprints. And this is something that I think in my personal journey to learning about preprints, I learned for the first time when it was in 2016, and I remember that the narrative around what preprints were was very much about, this is not something that as an alternative for journals. Like, it's on purpose, we don't want them to be peer reviewed, right? Preprints are this manuscript that the author puts out, and we want to make it very clear that there is not being a process of peer review, or, in other words, that has not been the stamp of approval of the research community. And that narrative has actually been shifting in these past 8 years. And of course, it's been shifting in my mind because I've been leading one of the projects that are actually trying to define actually, this preprint peer review as a new thing. Because I actually think that we're changing the way, as Lamis was already, kind of hinting to when she commented on the adjective of formal being not a very good one, because the fact that we need to recognize that the current system of peer review is very problematic. And so one thing that preprints give us is this opportunity to open up peer review, to open up, or whatever you want to call it, open up feedback that can come from the community, and also rethink, what does giving feedback mean? Because in the current way, not only the process is obscure and it's problematic, and it's in the hands of very few people, so there's a whole gatekeeping situation of knowledge that is very problematic, but also the way that it's done, and the way that I was personally exposed to how researchers give feedback to one another, was very toxic. And if you haven't had that experience, I am really glad that you didn't. But I remember just sitting at conferences and hearing researchers like just proving themselves smarter than others, and showing that your work is not as good as mine, or your work is not good, and here are all the problems that there are with it. And I think that there is a huge opportunity here to really discuss about, like, not only like you doing in more in the open, more collaboratively, but really thinking about how do we create a system that we're really we're really building that wall together. So going back to those images at the beginning where there are many bricks, we are not purposely putting like fake bricks in there so that the wall collapses, but we're truly working together. And this is what I want to see. And if it's done on preprints, if done on whatever manuscript, if done on grant proposals, I think that we really care about seeing this cultural shift into how feedback is made. And in the next session, we're going to look at that a little bit more. So anyway, these slides, going back to it, and just to show that there are many, and probably we're missing some in these slides as well. And it also is meant to show that some of these initiatives are more about like something quick, the minimalist or free form, where it's not as like similar, like it's kind of more distant from the more traditional or journal organized peer review. Maybe just a plot, it's just like you literally just add a clap icon to a preprint to say like, I really like this. And there are comments on preprint servers. Some preprint servers have their own comment boxes, which is where I personally posted my first reviews. But then if you move along this scale, and again, it's not very accurate in the way that it's represented, but like you go towards the right, or where there are more and more journal-like. I don't know, pre-review is in there as more journal-like. I think we can argue that it's not, but it is just, again, to give you an idea of what's out there. And I think I have one more slide before I want to stop and pause and get some conversation going. And one is like people in this have been asking more and more to learn more about what eLife has been doing. And I think obviously Lamis as a former ambassador, I'm not sure if you're an ambassador still, but you know a lot more about this. eLife is a journal that has kind of taken a shift that many consider very radical, but they as many of you may already know, they decided as a journal that they're only reviewing manuscripts that are already preprints, and if they're not preprints, they will help the authors submit them as preprints. This is not the most radical part because other journals have done that. But I think what's different is that they are not going to make that decision based on reviews if the manuscript is accepted to be published or not. So once the editors make the decision that the manuscript that is a preprint is kind of a fit for the journal. So, I think the basic decisions of like it's within the life sciences and it's within the scope of the journal, which, it's arbitrary if you ask me, but once that decision is in, I was like, oh, we have the capacity with our reviewers to review this manuscript, then that preprint is always going to be like, kind of reviewed and is going to be published. So there is this process that started, which is meant to be this kind of pink part in the middle of this diagram, where there are rounds of peer review that are controlled by the journals. And then there's a publication of the reviews, and then the author has the possibility to rebut, so respond to the reviews, and that is also published. And the new version that has addressed to the reviews is also published, and they all have digital object identifiers, so DOIs, and everything is more transparent in that sense. And then there's a decision that the authors have to make, which is, do I want to continue with eLife and have the final version of record, which is the curated part, where the journal may help, like, I don't know, reformatting the figures or whatever it is that journals do to kind of do the final edit, the final curation of the manuscript, and then get the final publication with the eLife DOI. If the author decides to do that, then the journal helps them do that. If they don't want to, they take the reviews and they can bring them to another journal and publish there. So I think this is a model that many people are trying to help grow, this publish, review, curate, where journals have less of a gatekeeping, reviewing, editorial work. What I want to see more added to this model is more community reviews that come into that middle step, where we can integrate other forms of reviews and feedback from the community. So I'm going to stop here because we have time, and the last few slides are really a little bit about more pre-review, and we're going to do a demo. But we talked a lot for the last 20 minutes about open preprint review, and I kind of would like to hear if anyone has anything to share or questions or comments, or I don't know, that didn't make any sense, and I'm totally fine with that. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I think you all have gone through some presentations already about preprints, so.
I think Ahmed,
yeah.
Ahmed, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead. I don't.
Ahmed had a comment that was a bit earlier, and he said that I wonder what the role of artificial intelligence and large language models will be in the peer review process in 2050. So I think this is more related to the previous exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, does anyone, so I'm not AI expert. I have opinions. I have opinions.
Which are not favorable.
I use large language models for my own research in a different context, more of a to predict behaviors of neurons. So very different context. I think less generative and more predictive coding. So I think I'll give you my opinion, and then I'll love to hear from other people. So, and I'm still, this opinion changes every day, right? Because it's like, I literally came back from maternity leave to a world that was completely different, where texts were written for me. And I was like, wait, what? In 3 months? But I think that there is a huge hype now about AI solving a lot of time issues. Oh, it's going to be so much faster because I can just feed this text into AI, and they will spit out this beautifully written text, which I can use as a review. And I think that I'm worried that to the extent that tool can be used. I think as a tool to polish language is going to be great, and we can all learn how to use it in a better way. But thinking that AI will help us have a less biased review, have a more inclusive review, it's actually dangerous, because I think that what it will do is just try and perpetuate issues of bias that we already have, because the data that feeds these models is biased. So there are a lot of like considerations that need to be made. And even the last thing I want to say is like a lot of these things that I'm hearing, it's going to make it beautifully written. Like if you're writing from Oxford, nothing about Oxford, Vanessa, I'm glad that you're in Oxford, but I heard that comment a couple of times. It wasn't always Oxford, but just like, you know, beautiful British English. But I think that that's not what I want. I want to hear the beauty of languages and the beauty of adaptation of what English, you know, how someone expresses themselves. And the idea that we have a tool to force ourselves into one kind of language is, I think it continues to perpetuate the same processes that we want to try to, you know, unlearn. That's just, again, 2 cents.
I think I could also comment on that, because I'm a big fan of AI. I think Emmanuel could agree. But I think that what AI could help us, especially since we're non-native speakers of English, is that we usually have issues expressing ourselves. And sometimes what we say could sort of come off offensive a bit, or maybe not, you know, like you don't know where to use the please, or I don't know, that there's something like that I feel when I'm speaking English, because like translating a sentence from English to Arabic, it's different, like the way it's said. So I think that AI could help in that, and it's really good. And for example, especially like the session that we're going to have next session and in level 2, where, for example, PREreview have set up this sort of framework for the review of how it could be written. So but I'm still to try that. I hope to find the time. But like, if you do the work of the review, but then ask the AI to put the review in this format, I think it would provide more of a constant output that would be easily understood by everyone, and avoid this intercultural, you don't know, barriers and misunderstanding that would happen. So this is what I expect the future of AI could help in the on the peer review process. But as Daniela said, like asking it to do the review itself, I don't think that this would make sense, to be honest. This wouldn't, because yeah, like the biases and the stuff that you need to be as a human conscious of, you cannot ask the AI to do it. But yeah, let's see how it goes. Yeah.
Any other comments about this or other aspect of what we discussed that people would like to share? Has anyone posted a preprint or reviewed the preprint? We're going to review one together. So if you haven't done that yet, we will. So that's great. Oh,
Yeah.
you posted 2 preprints.
Oh, good.
I thought I was even more nervous about posting a preprint than when I actually published the paper I remember in grad school. So that is quite an experience. Okay, I'm going to finish us off then. Yet to be running the pipeline, great. Okay, so in this last bit, you know, we've had the pre-review logo in throughout the whole presentation. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry, slideshow. But
this.
Hi. Is anyone trying to connect, perhaps?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's
Yeah, it's okay. Sorry, because I can't see faces as I'm screen sharing. But yeah, so what are we doing at PREreview? And so we just wanted to give you here a quick overview. And since especially we're going to be using PREreview in the I think the next level, which I don't know the dates yet, but to post to the preprint review together. But in our mission is to really, we want to focus on this idea of transforming peer review, make it more open as a process. And Lamis walked us through how many ways we can think about opening the process. But also from a point of view of like making it more of an equitable process. So really thinking deeply about what are the inequities that are currently permeating the peer review process and the research evaluation, research publication process in general. So we believe that peer review expertise should be measured by constructive feedback and constructive contributions, and not by how senior someone is or how prestigious their institution that they belong to is. So the work that we do at peer review is really de-emphasizing who you are as an individual because of where you live or your research institution or who your PI is, who your boss is, or who are your trainees if you're already the boss, and really emphasizing more your expertise as a peer reviewer because of the work that you have done, that you can show that you are a constructive reviewer, that you are a reviewer that has put time and effort into helping others develop and making better science out there. And of course, to do that, you need to practice and you need to show and making sure that your contributions are visible. And so the work that we do at peer review is to create this infrastructure, social infrastructure and technological infrastructure for researchers to engage in open preprint review and move towards this world in which we can measure impact and contribution on actual evaluations and none of other kind of proxy of expertise. So we build an open platform, open in terms of that it's open source. So the code is available. It's open in the sense that anyone can participate in preprint review. The only blocker, if you wish, is that you need an ORCID identifier, but you can go right now and make an ORCID identifier in probably 5 minutes. And then we develop trainings such as this one. They're usually longer, they can be different, they tailor to different audiences. And then we collaborate with organizations to deliver these trainings. And we also do what we call live reviews, which are Zoom. We use Zoom. The pandemic has helped a lot. And we do kind of live virtual journal clubs where we review a preprint together, and then we post that review that is written collaboratively on PREreview.org. And what the platform does that is kind of separates us from other groups is that, as I mentioned, it's open in the sense of the code that we use to write the platform, but also the reviews that are published on the platform all have open license as of Creative Commons CC BY 4.0. They are it's participatory, so it's designed with a lot of community input. In fact, you are invited, and we'll share the link to the Slack to give us feedback and input on the platform via Slack. But we also have one-on-one interviews that we compensate people to come and tell us what they think about the platform. And we organize design sprints pretty much quarterly at this point, where we invite community to give us input and feedback. It's agile in the sense that every week we have new changes that are released. So we try to make increment changes. So it's easier to make changes in terms of the respond to community feedback if we don't work for 2 years and then release something done. And that has been very transformative in the work that we have done. And then we try to make it inclusive. Again, ORCID ID is the only prerequisite, but we also have something like the public and pseudonym profile. So if you wish to sign your reviews with your name, you can do so. And so thereby building that reputation, as I just talked about. But if you don't feel comfortable, nobody should force you to do that. You can use a pseudonym that is uniquely given to you by PREreview. And you can build your pseudonym profile as a trustworthy reviewer. But that maintains this kind of element of accountability, because if you do violate the code of conduct, you go there and say like, oh, this preprint is like I don't know, you're very unconstructive, or you review your own work, which is also a violation of the code of conduct, we can still catch that with the pseudonym. It's adaptable. There are multiple paths to write a review. We're going to see a small demo, I think, in a minute. So you can see there are different ways that you can produce the review, and it's citable. So it has all the reviews receive a digital object identifier. So it's unique to that review. And it's the review is published on Zenodo, so it can be cited with all the authors that have contributed to the review, and the DOI is linked to the preprint that you of the preprint that you reviewed. And this element of interoperability, meaning we're trying not to develop this as a silo, but we're trying to connect. And we're trying to how do we connect with other organizations and projects in this space that are trying to do similar things. And so we're trying to, we're not a preprint server. You can submit to us. So we just work on top of other preprint servers, and we connect to more and more preprint servers every week. Right now, you can review on PREreview preprints that come from 22 different preprint services. There is also a way, some of you said that they're in the process of submitting their preprint. If you're planning to submit to bioRxiv or Cielo preprints, you'll see that there is an option to request feedback from PREreview, and it's not to us, it's from the community. So you can request feedback to the community, and the community will make sure that it's connected to that request. And we're working to develop that connection more and more, meaning refining that request of what feedback does that author need, and who are the best reviewers that are open to providing that feedback. So we're working on that connection. And we're also hoping to give this service of request feedback expanded to other preprint servers, not beyond Cielo preprints and bioRxiv. All right, so we do have a small demo. There's a link in that is gonna be in the slide, and that's just to a YouTube video. But I think we can also, Vanessa is going to give us a short demo live if there is time. What do you think, Lamis?
Yeah, I think we have time. Can do that.
Okay, and then we are done, and we'll see you Wednesday, but I'll just pass it over to Vanessa for this short demo. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And do keep me to time if I talk too much. So I'm going to show you briefly how it works on the PREreview platform. So you should be able to see the platform on my screen. So this is where you would come to when you go to PREreview.org. And you'll see that you can log in. I am currently logged in, but if you clicked on to log in when you arrive, then you can create an account if you've not already got one. And you can also just go directly to review in a preprint. You can also request a review, which is pretty new on our website, if you have a preprint that you would like to be reviewed. So in this one, I'm going to go and review a preprint. So I'm going to click that. And first of all, it asks me to identify which preprint I am reviewing. So can I then put in the DOI or the URL? And you've got some information here about what is a DOI, if you'd like to know. So it's a unique identifier, and it's something that you can find on most preprints. So in order to choose one of these, I'm going to go to our community Slack. So we'll pop the link to this in the chat at the end. But we have a community Slack channel, and it had a community Slack platform, sorry, and it has lots of different channels, some of which are about training, jobs and opportunities, all sorts of things. But we also specifically have one that's about request a review. So we have some automated reviews that come in here. So for example, some from Cielo, and other people are requesting different reviews in their preprints. You can also request this via our PREreview platform. So by doing the request a review request, or you can just come to our PREreview Slack and actually type it in yourself into the channel. That's absolutely fine. So I'm going to have a look at this one. So Cielo preprints need your help with the review of a preprint focusing on integrated high school education, school cultures, and student identities. And I can open it for more details. So I can click here, I can read a little bit more about it. This one is actually in Portuguese, so that's fine for our demo purposes. So I can read some more about it. This will be in English if the preprint was written in English, but you can see the abstract here. And then I can go on to click write a review. So if I click this, it should take me to the page, and here it is. And I can click start now. So I can check that this is in fact the preprint that I wish to review, which I believe that it is with my limited Portuguese knowledge. So I'm going to now go to the sandbox version of our site because I don't want to be accidentally creating an actual review just for the demo purposes. I'm going to go on the sandbox site. And you can also use sandbox if you want to just test how the PREreview platform works. You're welcome to do so. So before we start, it'll ask you to log in with an ORCID. As I said, I should already be logged in. But you have got some information here about what an ORCID identifier is. If you don't have one, it is a unique identifier that distinguishes you from other people with a similar name. So it's very easy to set up and get one of these. And it's also really good for being able to just create like a list of all the different publications that you've done or different things that you've contributed. It's quite nice to have anyway. So if I click start now, I should be able to, if we've already logged in. I am not already logged in, so bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to grab my own ORCID identifier. Or I can actually just sign in. I'm going to just sign in because I can't remember my own password. Sorry about that. It's not letting me do this. Oh, yes, it is. Here's my ORCID page. Okay, so this is my ORCID page. So as you can see, I've got like my education, my qualifications, I've got any professional activities, and I've got any works that I've been involved in, including reviews. So you can now add pre-reviews to your ORCID profile to demonstrate your review activity, which is something we can talk about later as well. So back to that page. Here we go. So how would I like to start my review? So now that I'm logged in, there are several different ways in which I can do it. So I can do it with prompts. So here we've got a series of questions. It's about 10 questions or so that you can fill in and answer questions about the preprint, providing some details. And we'll go through that in just a moment. There's a basic template. So if I click this, you can see what this template looks like. So here is it's quite basic. You can write a short summary of the main findings, major issues, minor issues. You can also get rid of all of this if you want to and just write your review directly in there. You've got some examples of good reviewer behavior and helpful review sections in order to help structure your review, as well as some tips and resources linked at the top there. You can also format your review in different ways to make it easier for the person to read. If you've already written the review, you can also click this option, and here you'll just get a blank box, like a blank template. You can copy and paste your review in. Again, you might want to format it a little bit more to make it look right. And then if we look at the prompts option, and we'll go through a few of these, we have here a series of different questions about the preprint. So does the introduction explain the objective of the research presented in the preprint? So again, we can choose either yes, it clearly explains the objective, partly it mentions but doesn't fully explain, no, it doesn't mention or explain, or I don't know. So in this I can click yes, and I can also add some example. I can also add some further context to it. So yes, it fully explains the objective, which is, I can save and continue. And it will take me through a series of different questions all about this. So again, like are the methods well suited? Maybe I think that's somewhat appropriate. And again, I can add some more context as to why I think that's the case. And this is optional but encouraged so that the authors know why it is that you're providing this feedback and what it is they can do to improve. So I'll just go through these questions quite quickly. I'm not going to go through each one. Conclusions, we've got questions about data, and again, adding some more information. Do the authors discuss, explain, and interpret their findings and potential next steps? Maybe I don't know this one. Is it likely to advance academic knowledge? Again, can add some more information. Would it benefit from language editing? Would I recommend it to others? So I can say yes, it's high quality, yes, but it needs improved. And if it needs improved, I can also add some more information about what it is that needs to be improved. Is it ready for the attention of an editor, publisher, or broader audience? I can say yes, or I can say maybe minor changes, or maybe a major revision. And then we get to this part, and this is where you select how you would like to be identified or how you would like to be acknowledged for your review. So again, as Daniela mentioned just before, you can choose between your public name, and this is the name that would be on your ORCID profile, or you can choose your PREreview pseudonym. Here you've got some more information about what a pseudonym is. So this is an alternative name, and you can use this. So my pseudonym is Slate Grey Gorilla. I don't mind anyone knowing this for the purposes of this demo. But if you don't disclose this to other people, then this will remain anonymous to a certain extent, in that we can still identify who you are in the background. So for accountability purposes and to protect people from any harm or any violations of the code of conduct, we are able to make sure that we know whose pseudonym goes to their ORCID profile, but this will not be made publicly identifiable. So in this one, I'll use my public name, and it will link my PREreview to my ORCID ID. So I'll talk about this slightly more after I get past this part, and I will be able to show my profile if I've got time, but I think I'm out of time actually. I've just noticed the clock. But you can, if you go into your profile, select to be able to allow PREreview to update your ORCID profile automatically for you. And we've got some more information about that we can share. So I'll go through this. If I reviewed it with other people, I can say yes, and maybe yes, they want to be listed as authors. And therefore I can then add their names and email addresses, and we'll contact them to ask them how they would also like to be identified in the review. In this, I'll just say I reviewed it alone. If I have any competing interests, again, we've got examples of what that looks like to make sure that you are not, don't have any competing interests, or if you do, then you disclose what they are, and that's also fine. And again, make sure that we're following the PREreview code of conduct. And then finally, we'll check our PREreview. So you can read over it all, make sure that I'm happy with how my name is, that I have my competing interests have been declared, that I'm happy with how it all reads, and that I don't have anything extra I'd like to change. I can go back and change and edit anything that I would like. And once I'm happy, I can publish my review. And it will automatically get a DOI, so a permanent identifier, and be available via a CC BY 0 license. So I can publish that. This may not work because we're in the sandbox. And there we go. My PREreview is published, and this is the DOI. And then you can see what happens next. We'll be able to share it on Society. You can share your review on social media, or you can always schedule an interview with us to talk more about it. I'm sorry I went over time slightly. It's quite a lot to go through with the demo, but hopefully, if anyone has any questions, happy to answer any.
Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you, everybody, and Lamis and Emmanuel for having us. Apologies for all the hiccups today. It's been a little bit of like time misunderstanding, but I think we went through the content, and Lamis, it was fantastic to have you present, and we'll go deeper into more issues of bias and assessment of bias on Wednesday.
Yeah, really, thank you very much. I think, yeah, it is a lot, Howard, actually. It's a new concept, I think, for most of us. I think most of the people here, maybe they haven't really been reviewers before, so maybe this is why it's being a bit of too much information. But I think it would be nice if you could just go back through the recording and you know, go through especially the publications that we have linked in the presentation. Like, they provide you with very good information, because of course we cannot talk about everything. So thank you very much, Daniela and Vanessa, for your time. And thank you guys for your time. And yeah, I think there's a question. Yeah, we will do a live review in level 2 when we get there. So if there are any questions, you could ask. Thank you. If not, then I think we could end this training. And yes, we will send the documents again. No worries.
And the slides, Vanessa will follow up. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, no worries. Thank you. Thank you all for joining. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye
everyone.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Merci.
you.
Au revoir.
Merci, Doria.